Good morning and welcome to AM News Network presents the Morning Report with Rachel Baird and Ed Peruta, who is back, seated to the left of me, to your right. Welcome back, Ed.
Thank you.
We're here every Monday through Thursday, mostly from 7 to 7:30 a.m. We're also here on Saturdays for our Summary Judgment flagship show with Matt Tyszkka, who will not be here this weekend. So we're trying to figure out if we're going to have a guest or what we're going to do. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning. Now, I would have taken this morning off, but I was home yesterday, and I watched you and Dan do a fantastic show, and I said, oh boy, he's going to start horning in on my chair. I better get my ass up there and do the show, or he'll start coming out here and sitting replacing me. I get replaced.
Yeah, it could turn into another Kelly Ripa situation where she's constantly, having men go through and she's deciding which one she wants to work with and which one she doesn't. Or it could be the other way around. I'm not sure.
So I decided that I better get up here and do the show, and there's some stuff that I have to take care of. But nope, I am here.
We did have our loyal viewer Ed email me Monday afternoon saying what happened, where's the show, and I explained to him that Monday we decided to take off and start again on Tuesday. But a lot of exciting things happened Monday. We had those 2 Supreme Court cases come out, United States Supreme Court cases come out. We had Your American News case decision come out in our state appellate court, and so a lot of things are going on.
And even the dissent was somewhat leaning in our favor. He just had some twists and turns that he wanted to address.
Yeah. So interesting, both of them. I'm going to post the decision and the dissent at my website today, for anybody who wants to go in there and read it. It's at www.rachelbairdlaw.com, and I want to sit down. I got to get through this week, though. I want to sit down this weekend and read those decisions, because there are a lot of good things in there that we've been saying ever since we started this process back. And I don't know, when did we start? I think the fall of 2015 is when we really got interested in taping court proceedings.
Well, I'm thinking everybody knows I was in the hospital, or they may know that I was in the hospital, and I got discharged on Monday midday, and yesterday I was going to take it easy because I want to make sure that the medications they're giving me do what they're supposed to do. And I got a call from a state trooper at Troop I.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that, though.
No, but I did. I went down and I assisted him.
We got out of the house a little bit.
Oh, boy.
Mm-hmm.
And I got detours. It had me going all over the place.
So, what's in the news? What kind of cases should we discuss today? Do you want to discuss the appellate court case? Do you want to discuss, now Peruta v. California was not addressed on Monday in the court's orders that issued out at 9:30. So it wasn't denied cert, it wasn't granted cert, and so we're still waiting. It looks like it'll be conferenced again this Thursday. And who knows if they actually sit around each Thursday and discuss it, or it's kind of like a docket they go through and, say, well, we're going to do this or that, and we don't need to necessarily discuss it this week. But the term ends next week, and so there'll be announcements on Monday.
Well, I'm gonna say,
and it's getting interesting.
I'm gonna say this again.
Not that it hasn't always been interesting.
There is an issue out there in Never Neverland about concealed carry versus open carry. And I am very intrigued by, I believe it's Senate Bill 466. Can you look up SB 466 and see if it's there? See if I got the number right.
Yeah, let's not do that. It's out there. People can Google themselves. I don't see it right away.
But I believe that proposed federal legislation will have a bigger impact and a quicker resolution to a lot of the Second Amendment issues if in fact it moves successfully through the House and Senate and gets onto President Trump's desk. I think that issue of reciprocity is an issue that is needed for anybody who travels outside of the state that permits them to carry a firearm.
Now, we haven't talked about on the show in a while the Hartford Civilian Police Review Board situation.
28th, they've changed the date of their meetings.
So it's the last Wednesday of the month that they meet.
And their next meeting is June 28th.
Which is next Wednesday, a week from today.
They had a training session earlier this month. And it's my understanding that 3 out of the 8 current members did not show up for the training. And without the training, they are prohibited by their own rules or whatever from hearing cases.
Well, I know if you go to the Civilian Police Review Board website, it lists Walter Butler as the chair, Carol Carlson, Ramon Espinoza, Michael Brescia, Jennifer Stevens, Rita Riccardi, Anna Stevenson, and Ricardo Torres as the members of the review board right now.
And I have said this previously. We live in a social network internet age.
Yep.
And when individuals that are even thinking about doing business in the city of Hartford go to the Hartford website and find inaccurate information, broken links that take you nowhere, a lack of required minutes and agendas, it really does reflect on the city.
It's no different than walking up to City Hall and seeing all the bricks and mortar falling apart upon you. It gives an impression. And the website is the same thing as bricks and mortar now. It's a first impression that people run into when they're looking at something. And interestingly enough, the Civilian Review Board website meeting dates are the third Tuesday of the month from 6 to 8 p.m. So people look here and they show up on the third Tuesday of the month at 6 o'clock expecting a meeting.
Well, they show up on was it the second Tuesday of the month?
It says here the third, and it was the third. It
was
has
the
been
third,
the third,
okay.
Yeah. And they want to look at some meeting agendas, and the last thing they can click is from 2012, and then you click on that and it says service unavailable. You know, I know when I went to that budget meeting get-together on a Saturday where they split us into groups in City Hall, and the groups tried to figure out what they would cut to make the budget for that year. It was an exercise. There were a lot of young people there. It was mostly young people. It was for young people. Well, not a lot. Don't get me wrong. There were not a lot of people there, but of the people that were there, many of them were young. And I'm thinking, you know, they have explorers in Hartford, and I don't mean the police explorers. I mean, like, maybe it's called the youth corps. Maybe a lot of those kids were in the youth corps. Don't they have young people in Hartford involved in this that know how to work with websites? I mean, young people know how to do this. Could go on or have somebody teach them or get together or do this, because it really does send out quite the impression when you have public meetings noticed for the wrong dates.
Let me explain my editorial opinion on the Hartford website. Began Luke Bronin went around to the suburban communities and had this pitch. If the capital city goes down, then the area around the capital city will be affected. In other words, the suburban towns around Hartford would be affected. How can Mayor Bronin of Hartford, Connecticut, Connecticut's capital city, be proud of his city if his presence to the outside world is in total disarray? How? And I understand how frustrating it is to have issues with a website if you don't know how to do it. But like you said, I'm sure that there's volunteers. It could be an assignment for a computer class at a community college. You know, Greater Hartford Community College or Goodwin that's across the river in East Hartford. There is a solution to this. But it was no different than making appointments to the Police Civilian Review Board. It's not on his priority list. When in fact, it should be a rat's ass, easy to use, informative place, because we live in a world today where if I'm going to go to Orlando and stay in a hotel, I can ask Google, give me the good restaurants around this hotel, and I'll get all of the information. I'll go to the website. If the website is shit, I'm going to think the food's shit.
Yeah, it's just the way it is, right? Or a hotel or anything.
It is. And it's really a shame.
Well, at least get the dates and times of the meetings correct and the people on the board correct. At least do that.
And they walk around, and I'm talking about the mayor, his department heads, his top-level aides. They walk around with such a pompous attitude when, in fact, they're like the emperor has no clothes. They don't see it. They don't get it. It doesn't click. How can that be possible? Are we the only people that say this to them? Because we have said it to them. I don't know.
I'm going back to the other subject that we were talking about, the recording in the courtroom, and I'm looking at the next meeting for the Judicial Media Committee. And it looks like they have them twice a year, in the spring and in the fall. We missed the April 3rd one. I forget what we were doing that day, but I know we wanted to go, but we couldn't go. And they don't have the minutes up from that one yet.
Could I have been either just in or just
had surgery.
Just going in or just coming out of a hospital?
Yep.
No, I had just had the colon cancer.
Yep, surgery. Yep. And so we didn't go to that one. And then they had a meeting in September last year, so I anticipate they'll have a meeting in September, October this year, so we'll have to wait till then. They have a lot of people on the Judicial Media Committee.
Well.
You know, Karen Florin is the co-chair. She's a staff writer of the Day in New London. She's done articles about some of our cases that we've done down there, and I think we've spoken to her. And then Judge Devlin is the co-chair. And they just have a mix of people from the court system and from the media on the committee. And, I can't imagine that the decision that came out Monday, have there been any other appellate court decisions in Connecticut addressing those practice book sections that have to do with recording in the courtrooms? Yeah.
Well, you did the research. I don't think you found many.
Right.
But let me say something that I found very intriguing. The issue was, can you go into a courthouse and request access to and possible copies of full exhibits and have the court clerk or the judge say, you can look at them, but you can't make copies of them. Now, I want you to go back to the issue I had in the Norwich courthouse with the clerk who, when I asked for the email about whatever, held it up behind the glass and then testified, well, I let him read it. You wouldn't put it in my hand. They said that merely letting someone see it without getting a copy of it was not disclosure.
Yeah, but, okay, wasn't the issue in Norwich, you had not made a request in writing, and you don't have to make a request in writing to inspect.
Right.
Well, you don't have to make a request in writing to get copies either, right? Or do you?
Yeah, they can insist.
They can insist on it.
But what happened was, I had raised the bitch at the clerk's office. She had contacted Judicial in Hartford. Judicial in Hartford had sent her an email. In other words, how to respond. And I wanted to see the email response to my request. And they wouldn't put it in my hand. But you know my opinion on the Freedom of Information Act in Connecticut now. It's almost a...
Well, I was looking for the decision in that Norwich case, and I'm at the website for FOI, and you can't click on the 2017 decisions yet. Only
it was a non-issue issue.
Right.
Like it got resolved, it's a non-issue issue.
Well, if anything occurred because of that case that you brought, the website for the Freedom of Information Commission was corrected. Because the website was incorrect and people were relying on it to make the point that you had to request in writing the opportunity to inspect documents, and that was totally incorrect. And so that was fixed.
I have to have been making this statement for the last 10 years. I went to an FOI seminar, and down in Westbrook someplace, they have this conference center on the beach.
Yeah.
And they had an FOI seminar, and I went down there. And the presenter from FOI was telling all of the attendees, a lot of whom were mayors, first selectmen, and town clerks, that you had to request in writing. And I went up afterwards, I said, you are teaching them the wrong information. Why are you doing that? Because now they're going to go back to their towns, and somebody like me is going to walk in,
Yep.
and I'm going to get in a pissing contest, and they're going to sit there and say, well, the FOI, that's what we learned at the seminar.
And it's going to be in their head, and they're going to tell other people, and it's going to get in their head, and that's how these myths and wrong interpretations are perpetrated. Exactly in that way. And I often wonder, all the people sitting at the meeting listening to that individual up there talk, don't they ever check it out by looking at the statute themselves? You know, getting it from somebody telling you is never 100% certain, unless you look at the law yourself and read it yourself. I don't care if it's a Supreme Court justice telling you what the law is. Until you look at it yourself and read it yourself, to me, it's just secondhand information.
The Freedom of Information Commission came out of Public Act 75-342. It was then, and I don't know what you call it when you give it numbers in the statute. And in the early days, it was extremely pro-disclosure. It was extremely beneficial to the individuals making requests. It was very rare that you had a decision, an exemption of some kind, unless it was very clear. And they've issued thousands of decisions in the last 20, 25 years. And I'll tell you, they waffle. They waffle, whatever, back and forth. And I remember talking to Cliff Leonard. And Cliff Leonard was in the office, and he said to me,
I was there.
we cannot come out and be too pro-disclosure because the legislature will legislate us out of existence if they don't like what we're doing.
You know, waffle, I looked it up as a verb. Fail to make up one's mind. Joseph had been waffling over where to go. Where does that come from? Did the actual waffle with the things in it come first, or did the verb? Because if you look at a waffle, is it because it has like ridges and valleys?
Or
like,
two sides? I don't know.
Yeah, so you don't know which way to go. Lengthy but trivial or useless talk or writing. Oh, let's try not to do that. Hey, you know what other interesting FOI case there is out there? Is in stores where the tragedy happened.
The girl got run over by the fire apparatus.
Right. Well, explain a little bit more for people.
An intoxicated student.
Well, we don't know that, do we? Let's not.
Yeah,
say.
we do.
Well, let's not.
Toxicology reports from her autopsy
Right.
shows that she was intoxicated.
Okay. Well, whatever that means. I mean, that could mean .08
Okay.
and above.
Somehow, a
Which is
female
one drink.
UConn student
Right.
ended up in front of the door of a firehouse.
Yes.
On the ground, sitting down, laying down, whatever.
Right.
And they got a call. The door opened, and they went out.
Yeah.
And they ran over the student and killed her.
Right. And there's video of it.
And there is video.
And is it the Hartford Courant? I believe the Hartford Courant.
A mainstream media outlet requested access to or copies of the video of the incident.
And they were denied.
They were denied.
So they went to Superior Court instead of making a complaint to the Freedom of Information Commission. And the Superior Court said, you have to go to, the FOI intervened and said, this is our territory. And the Superior Court said, well, you have to go to FOI Commission.
Exhaust your administrative remedies.
So we're waiting to see what's going to happen there. Because obviously the family is objecting on the grounds that we've heard before. You know, this is too emotional.
We at American News videotaped the Harel Patel trial and sentencing in, I believe, January of 2017. In order to properly present, in order to give the same information to the public that was available to the attendees in the courtroom through the use of video, you have to have the exhibits. You have to have them. Now, I understand that I'm not concerned with the autopsy photographs, but the scene photographs and the evidence that was used to convict Harel Patel, the things that the jury saw and some members of the public saw in the courtroom, is part of the overall story. I will tell you that I have received, if I've received one, I've received 50 requests to publish certain videos, video clips of that trial and sentencing. And I know from reliable sources that the victim's advocate has badmouthed American News and me. And if the people that want it made public, they're going to have to go after the victim's advocate and the prosecutor and the judge and let them know I'm a victim, or I'm a relative of a victim, or I'm an interested person, and I want those released. Now, my suggestion to some of these people was, it's all audio recorded. Go ask for an audio recording. And we've got 5 minutes that we can go into this. There is a program used in judicial called FTR, for the record. All court hearings are audio recorded now. And judicial has been planning on making those audio recordings available to the public so that you can listen to the trial. You're not going to see video, but you're going to hear everybody, everything. The court reporters who get paid sometimes $6 a page and make a small fortune in their jobs do not like the idea of people being able to buy audio because they won't be paying for a transcript. I talked to Martin Libben or someone in judicial and was told that it will be $10 per docket number on the docket. If you go in with a client and you stand up in docket number 1, 2, 3, 4, and you talk for 2 minutes and then leave, $10. If you go into a trial on docket 1, 2, 3, 4, and it goes from 9:30 in the morning until 5 o'clock at night, $10. That docket number for that day, $10. Now, if you're a lawyer and you're sitting at the defense table or at the plaintiff's table in a civil case, and you look at the clock and you say it's 11 o'clock on June 21st, you can go to the audio, fast forward to that period of time, find what you want, give it to somebody to transcribe, and you pay for 3 pages instead of the entire transcript. And for some reason, the state of Connecticut is not implementing the audio access to audio recording program in the state of Connecticut for some ungodly reason. And I gotta believe that it is pressure from the court reporters. The unions or whatever are bitching. But if you want to be transparent...
I also think that when you make that change, it's going to provide a lot more access to people to know what's going on in the courtroom.
Oh!
And as we know from trying to video court proceedings, there is a definite pushback to wider dissemination of verbatim, testimony or video or audio of what's going on in the courtrooms. It's a change that needs to happen.
We can go a little bit over because there's no Monday show when I put the...
Well,
okay.
no, I think
All
we're
right,
better. I think
you're
we're
right. But let's continue this tomorrow because I believe that there are things that take place and are said in courtrooms that if the general public ever heard what was said, and I'll go this far, some of the family court comments that are made from the bench will shock the public. So, having said that, see you tomorrow.
Okay, have a great Wednesday.
Really in depth and they're really well thought out and they're really well written.
I know.
And they come